Seattle sports fans, welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken. I'm your host, Erica L. Ayala. We have a game day. We're on the road against, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. You know how I feel about the Vegas Golden Knights. We're going to preview that game. We're going to recap the San Jose Sharks win at Climate Pledge. I don't even know. My head's still spinning. And then, of course, we'll talk about Shane Wright in between. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey there, Seattle hockey fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And where we're going to start this episode is a recap of Wednesday night's wild and crazy game. It was a win in regulation, which I am very grateful for, but everything else was absolutely bonkers in this 8-5 win over San Jose Sharks. You know that the San Jose Sharks podcast on the Locked On Network does not believe in defense. Well, isn't that obvious? They gave up an 8 spot to the Seattle Kraken on the road. This was just, I don't even know. Early, the Seattle Kraken, that is. In 4 minutes into the game, Logan Couture scores his 11th of the season, but then Andre Burakovsky gets it done. Second period, we have 4 different goals, 3 from the Seattle Kraken, including Ryan Donato and Jamie Oleksiak. Donato, the only forward that scored in this frame. And then the third period, hold your butts, folks. Oliver Bjorkstrand scores his second goal of the season, his first since the opening game of the season. Jaden Schwartz gets on the board. Matty Beniers, oh my. He really set up Vince Dunn, who scored in the first frame, with a beautiful pass. Matty Beniers gets a goal of his own, assisted by McCann and Susie, and Jaden Schwartz seals the deal. 8-5 win for the Seattle Kraken. When I tell you this was a wild game, honestly, I don't know what to think. There was also a fantastic save by Martin Jones. Speaking of Martin Jones, I said we're going to preview tonight's game day. It's a game day, I should say. So preview tonight's game. Martin Jones made a fantastic save in a wild and crazy game, and he's likely not getting the start tonight. We'll talk about it a little bit later on the episode, but I want to take you to actually Andre Burakovsky. Burakovsky talking about this game. We're also going to hear from Matty Beniers. But Burakovsky also had a really fun little quip about his former line mate, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and why he thinks he was able to score in this game.
Yeah, we've been on him a little bit since he switched sticks. Okay. So, and then he started scoring a lot in practice with that new stick. And then I told him when he scored, that's a new stick, but you've been seeing guys on first, second, third, and fourth line contributing almost every night, and that's really important to have. We have 4 lines that's really even and can play against anyone. I've said it before. We are an extremely deep team, and it's good to have for sure.
Key to your finesse on those kind of plays?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's a little bit of luck, but Dunn made a great play on the breakout, and then I just kind of threw it there in the middle, and he made a great play putting it in, so that was nice. And then the goal. I don't think there was much to that. Canner made a nice play back, and I just walked in with no one on me, so that was also nice.
So between Andre Burakovsky and Matty Beniers, you can tell the guys are in good spirits. That's what we wanted, getting a win on the road. We also heard from Jamie Oleksiak. I'm going to take you actually to Jamie Oleksiak right now, talking about coming back after injury, getting on the score sheet, coming back after injury, but then also the way that this game played out and what works, but also what needs to be refined, given that it was an 8-5 score.
It was an exciting one, I think. It's kind of nice to see us chip in offensively. I don't think we want every game to be kind of run and gun like that, but we were able to pull through, so that's the key there. Good. I felt honestly maybe a little better than I expected. A couple defensive reads on the goals against. Probably wish I could have had back, but overall, I was supposed to have my play.
And finally, if you listen to Dave Haxtell after this game, he talked about, and we mentioned this before on the podcast, but the importance of being able to play at home, the importance of being able to get points in your own barn and using the energy in Climate Pledge Arena to push through tough games. And this was a tough game. Some people, Locked On Sharks, might say that this is an entertaining game, but these are not the games that you want as a player. There are things that need to be cleaned up, and I'm really looking forward to what Seattle is going to do to make those changes. But overall, yes, the Jones save, check the link in the show notes so you can check that out. It was a fantastic save. It was good to see Jamie Oleksiak back. I'm very glad that Matty Beniers not only got on the board, but he had a goal and 2 assists. Matty Beniers, as I mentioned, he assisted the Vince Dunn goal, but he also assisted Jaden Schwartz goal, not his last goal is unassisted. So Jaden Schwartz scored twice in this affair. Jaden Schwartz had a fantastic defensive play, and we talked about it on playback for our watch party. Anyone who did try for the watch party, playback was having some issues, so apologies if you were having trouble when you did log in. But those of us who stuck it out, we had a good time, and there was a great play early in the game. Jaden Schwartz, with a sliding back check. And if you've been listening to some of the media updates, the full updates that we post over on the Locked On Kraken YouTube page, you know that Dave Haxtell has been talking a lot about the team identity for this year is about a checking team. They have to win possession, and they want to do that by being a checking team. What does that mean? On the back check, that means that they're hustling, they're hauling buns. If the other team is on a breakaway or they have a player advantage, they're back checking. And Jaden Schwartz did a great job on a back check, sliding all out back check. So that's a hustle play, a hustle defensive play. But then on the other end of it, it's being aggressive. So not letting the other team out of their defensive zone, or on the forecheck. That's when you're skating towards the team with the puck and you're in front of them. A back check, usually you are you're trailing the team with the puck and you're trying to catch up to them. So I think that we saw that a lot in the preseason. We didn't see it too much early in the season, which again, I've been talking about my frustration early with this team is that they gave us a really good model in the preseason. And then in the first week of the regular season, it was nowhere to be found. So anyway, I'm not going to get too worked up about that, but a checking team. And I think this could be a really good test to see how good and how committed we truly are to being a checking team on the forecheck and on the back check against the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Coming up next, though, we're going to talk about Shane Wright. Made his second appearance with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. The team lost the first game where he appeared, but they won the second. So let's talk about it. And of course, we'll get you ready for game day against the Vegas Golden Knights. Some players to watch, who's going to be in net, and some other details and 3 essentials that you need to know for tonight. Today's episode, as I mentioned, is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for sports betting info, stats, and news analysis. You can get the latest odds trends for every professional and amateur league out there. We're talking basketball. We're talking football. Of course, we're talking hockey. So Head to the website today. Again, that's betonline.net for the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. BetOnline is where the game starts. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day, or, whatever you're doing. Maybe you're in line for some Black Friday deals. Maybe you're getting some leftovers from the refrigerator, heating them up in the oven. I prefer heating things up in the oven, or the stovetop works too, or the microwave, or, maybe you just kind of pick out whatever you got. Either way, I'm here for you doing what you do, boo. I do want to acknowledge that today is the National Day of Mourning, and this is an opportunity to really identify the unfortunate history that Indigenous peoples have experienced here on Turtle Island or in North America. So I am in solidarity with those communities, with the Indigenous communities. I am learning a lot more about the Indigenous communities that are the original inhabitants of the land that I consider my community, both back home in New York, but also where my business resides here in Tulsa. So I want to honor the Cherokee and Osage and Muskogee communities here in Oklahoma, and I am grateful for all that you have passed along for us to be able to continue to take care of this land. So I didn't want to miss the opportunity to say that on this podcast. Shane Wright. Shane Wright. He has been on a tear. And I want to take you actually to this interview that he did for TSN. It's Salim Valhi, I believe I'm saying that right. Now, being in the AHL is not necessarily where Shane Wright envisioned himself, but he is intent on making the most of it. Salim writes, this is a quote: "It's always tough not being able to play and getting scratched and not being able to play a high-end role. But I think that's just the reality of the situation," Wright said. "I'm an 18-year-old kid coming into the NHL, trying to learn my way, trying to learn those experiences in the NHL. It's not going to happen right away. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be a lot of development for me, and I have to learn a lot of things from the coaches." This is what Dan Bilesma has been saying about Shane Wright in the TSN article. Coaching him is just giving him the chance to go out there and show what he can do and do it at his best. That's just putting him on the ice and seeing how he can play. Right from practice on Monday to the game last night, he showed immediately what he can do with his speed and tenacity on the puck. So now this article posted before Shane Wright was with the Coachella Valley Firebirds in their win yesterday. The Coachella Valley Firebirds played the Wranglers, and they were trailing 1-0. Shane Wright tied it, and then the Firebirds eventually get the 4-3 win. Shane Wright scored 2 goals in his second ever game with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. He was the first star of the night. Joey Decord, our good man Joey, 23 saves on 26 shots. He is now 8-4-2-0 on the season, and the power play was not great for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, 1-4, but the penalty kill went 2 for 3. So that's pretty dope. Shane Wright, and we were talking about this on playback. Someone called Shane Wright like a muscle car. And I kind of liked that because he's looked very fast. He has a quick release. I think we need to look at his full game. And what I love is that we have plenty of fans. Let me see. I want to make sure I get this account correct. Deep Sea Hockey has a video, and you can check the show notes, but they have all of Shane Wright's shifts in yesterday's game, the November 24th game. So check that out. And I want to start breaking down, what we're seeing from him. I love that he's performing well at the AHL. I think we've talked about cast Dave Haxtell has mentioned it, and Shane Wright in that TSN article I was reading from earlier. Again, you can check the show notes for that. He's saying it's a confidence thing. So why Shane needed a little bit of an extra morale boost in confidence? Was it that he came in with low confidence? Was it that he was overconfident and it was a little unrealistic? These are all things that we can debate and discuss. What I think is a little bit ridiculous might be overstepping, but I think we're getting ahead of ourselves by saying this was the wrong plan for Shane Wright. And actually, the Seattle Times has an article why the Kraken's decision to send Shane Wright to the AHL isn't a bad thing. So, and I think you should check this out. In the article, Dave Haxtell is quoted, "It's a great opportunity for him to go out and play some real valuable minutes at a high level in an important role." And that's the confidence boost. He needs that. Whether you think it's right or wrong, no pun intended, we have shown that Shane Wright needs a confidence boost. He wasn't going to get that playing with the Seattle Kraken. So, I think this is what Jeff Baker writes. He goes, "The Kraken entered Tuesday 10-5-3, tied with Tampa Bay for the league's 7th best mark and sitting 3rd in the Pacific Division. That they are 9-2-2 against playoff teams from last season is also a sign this push towards playoff contention just might continue through next spring. And winning is never a bad thing in pro sports. Yes, even when that winning might be limiting the chances of your top prospects suiting up for games. Some have expressed disappointment that the Kraken are actually putting out their best lineup nightly in an attempt to win games rather than forcing right in there more often at the expense of more deserving players." For me, it's a mind-boggling sentiment. That's Jeff Baker from his article, and I couldn't agree more. I'm honestly getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of people, I was asked actually about how I feel about Dave Haxtell, and the verdict is still out. I don't know yet, but I am not mad about how Dave Haxtell and Ron Francis are handling the Shane Wright situation. I think also Jeff gets into this a little bit more about talking about, that teams would prefer to see their teams underperform to make their chances of long-term success better. And that's a really interesting concept. I never really thought of the whole tanking argument with respect to the Seattle Kraken and Shane Wright. I think if anything, it's a little bit of a separate argument. It's like we have this high draft pick and you want to see him right away. And that's the draw, as opposed to getting him ready so that he can be the best he can possibly be for as long as possible. I think that's a little bit where we are with this. Anyway, check out the article, and we'll see what happens with Shane Wright. I am hoping I mentioned this on playback, but next week we should have some more analysis coming directly from the Firebirds on Locked On Kraken, so you're not going to want to miss it. Coming up next, let's get you ready for game day. We're on the road against the Vegas Golden Knights, and I want this. I want this win. It's going to be a tough one, but we can do it because we're going to hold fast and we're going to stay true. But we'll talk about the 3 essentials to the game as posed by Bob Condor and a few other stats that I'm taking a look at for this game. As always, thank you for making Locked On Kraken your listen of the day, or taking time to listen throughout your day. We appreciate you. I am grateful for you. After you listen to this show, go check out Locked On Sports Today. From games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and the insights that only Locked On can provide. Head to Locked On Sports Today, available on this app. Of course, it's available on YouTube and wherever else you may get your podcasts. We've talked about Shane Wright. We've talked about the wild and crazy 8-5 win over San Jose. All that's left to talk about, that means, is tonight's game. That's right, against the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, at the time of this recording, we haven't heard directly from Dave Haxtell. Today is Philipp Grubauer's birthday. Happy birthday to the German gentleman. And I've been going back and forth on this. We talked about it on playback also while watching the San Jose game. I think he's going to get the start. A lot of people are saying that he's going to get the start. No other changes. I'll show you the lineup in a little bit. I am a little bit nervous. I understand why we might want to give him the start. But I'm a little bit nervous. But also, one of our loyal YouTube listeners has said that Martin's numbers against Vegas are not great, and we need this win. This is a perfect opportunity, in my opinion, for Philipp Grubauer to show us what kind of Philipp Grubauer we're going to see this season. It's a little bit unfair, and I think he should get a little bit more runway after this game if he does get the start, because he's coming back from injury. But I don't know that I want to see how Philipp Grubauer is going to fare at the expense of Martin Jones, who's been holding us down. As that TSN article, or excuse me, I think it was the Jeff Baker article that I referenced, they're winning. They have a winning percentage over 500 against playoff teams from last year. Now, granted, the NHL is a different league. We are case in point to that. I mean, the New Jersey Devils, when they're not throwing things on the ice, oh gosh, stay classy. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. When they're not throwing things on the ice, they're showing that they can be a pretty good hockey team. They put a lot of wins together early, and that stands for something. That matters. Whether they'll be able to sustain it, we shall see. Anyway, it's a new league, but that being said, we're not seeing the top teams from last year absolutely bomb. It's, I think, in the middle, in the lower middle, that's shifting, in my opinion. Anyway, I'm a little nervous. But anyway, here's what Dave Hakstol said after Wednesday's win regarding if there's a specific timeline or how he's going to go about the goaltending situation.
No, I mean we're gonna need we need everybody on a roster, including both our goaltenders. So, Gruby's been back now. I think he's got I believe 4 practices under his belt. That puts him in I believe in a really good spot to be ready to come back into the net. We always make our decisions as we get closer to game day. There's nothing scripted, So Jonesy, I don't need to talk about his play, right? We all know what he's done for us. And we all know that we're going to, we need everybody on our roster to help us win games over the long run.
Good.
So, of course, Dave Hakstol is non-committal. He did say that they need everyone, and we know that. I've mentioned that on the podcast before. It's about that balance. And I said, I haven't made a decision about how I feel about Dave Hakstol. I think we're over analyzing his handling of the Shane Wright situation. And honestly, I don't know how much of that is his idea. I don't think that he's against it. I think that he, maybe my opinion and my read, I don't have any inside information. My read is that he's been talking about this a lot longer than he wants. I think he would have liked a little bit more of a clean cut situation here. I don't know. That's my read, but I could be wrong. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it's my guess. I'm nervous. I'm nervous on how he's going to handle Philipp Grubauer and Martin Jones. I don't know too much about Steve Briere, so I hope that his input matters. But we'll see. I mean, we got to get Philipp Grubauer in there. If the number split isn't great for Jones, then hey, who's to say no? Who is to say no? Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about this game against the Vegas Golden Knights. Again, we're on the road. The team's already in Vegas. Here's what we're looking at. This is a 33-point team, Vegas Golden Knights. They're 16-4-1. Their home record 7-3-1. They know how to protect home. Our home record, as we've talked about, wasn't great early. It's getting better. We haven't played as many away games as Vegas, so we see that split there. We are 8-1-1 in our last 10. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Our leading scorer is Andre Burakovsky with 18 points. Jack Eichel's their leading scorer with 26 points. Now, I do think this is interesting. Talked about it a little bit with San Jose. We are getting so much scoring. We had 8 goals, 7 different goal scorers on Wednesday. So these numbers, the split between the leading scorer and the points differential, doesn't bother me too much. The power play, we see that we are a smidge better on the power play. We are not as great on the penalty kill percentage wise. Now, let's go to some stats and facts that you should know going into this game. So we talked about the record in the last 10 games. We won our 11th game against the San Jose Sharks, and we scored the most goals that we've ever scored. We are the only team in this season to have 3 different defensemen score at least 3 goals. Jamie Oleksiak got his 4th. Vince Dunn has 3. Justin Schultz, he had a great game. What was that? Was it against Rangers? Yeah, I think that was the Rangers game. Jared McCann has at least a point in each of his last 3 games dating back to November 13th. Players to watch: Justin Schultz. He's ranked among the team's defensemen scoring on pace to finish at 7 points this season, which would tie him for the highest scoring season of his career. So would love to see a little bit more production. Shea Theodore is someone to watch for the Vegas Golden Knights, but also for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I'm going to take you over to Bob Condor and his 3 essentials to the game. I'm actually going to start with essential number 3 since we already talked about this. But the question, and this came out yesterday, the question of who are going to start in net. Check back on the Kraken app, website, and socials for a Friday update on whether Grubauer returns to the Seattle net, which is likely to start. So who's going to start in net? Philipp Grubauer has dressed for the last 2 games, but has not played. He has not appeared since October, and it was actually Ron Francis that revealed it was something that the broad, but it was a groin injury. So very curious to see, and we're going to keep an eye on the lateral movements. A groin injury can be really tough for a goaltender, but Philipp Grubauer, he said in his very Philipp Grubauer way that he didn't think it was too serious. So, okay, good to know. Logan Thompson is likely starting in net, says Bob Condor, for the Vegas Golden Knights. 11-3-0 in 14 games with a .925 save percentage. Oh, it's so hot right now. That being said, he's given up 4 goals in 2 of his last 5 games. So he's only allowed 1 goal in the others. So if the Seattle Kraken, if their offense is for real, and I kind of said this, I didn't think it was going to be 8 goals. I thought it was going to be more 5, but I wanted to see us really get our offense buzzing against San Jose because we're going to need it against the Vegas Golden Knights. That being said, I'm really looking for a strong forecheck, as some may say, or even have on their social media handles, or an active stick, as some say. Shout out Laura from the Locked On Canadians podcast. We have to be more aggressive, and we have to be defensively sound in all 3 zones. We're not always that. I'm a little bit concerned about our back line. They're kind of slow. They're kind of slow. They don't move their feet as much as I personally would like. And I think we're going to need that against Vegas. Other numbers for you to know as we head into this game tonight. The last time we played Vegas, we lost 5-2. That was Jones in net, Grubauer in relief. We don't play Vegas again until April, and we're looking at this schedule on playback. So this is the last we play a home and home against Vegas, our last 2 games of the season. I want this win so bad. I want this win so freaking bad. It's like painful. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Likely Philipp Grubauer in net. Before we log off today, I'm just going to take another look, see if Seattle has given us any update. But yeah, again, it's happy birthday to Philipp Grubauer. And it's back in the crease tonight with eye emoji from the Seattle Kraken social media. So we see Philipp Grubauer in his Hockey Fights Cancer. Oh, hello. His Hockey Fights Cancer mask there. And I think it's the German gentleman getting the start. Again, at the time of this recording, we don't have pregame quotes yet from Dave Haxtell, but I think all of us are really leaning that it's going to be Philipp Grubauer. Some people are very hell-bent on Philipp redemption tour. That's not exactly where I am. Some people, I think it's LL, people call him Philipp Gruesome. I'm not quite there yet either, but I am nervous, fam. So I'll be keeping an eye on the score while I'm on the plane. That's our show. Remembering and honoring the indigenous communities who this week was a little bit tough for them. And let's go Kraken. I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.